Hi everybody, it's Nikki, and I think maybe this is my last video about the 670G and the Guardian 3, and it's kind of a few general tips and ideas and opinions or whatever about the combination. Michael Stone, so you had a few more questions. Again, this is not medical advice, this is just personal opinion, personal experience, personal theories. Okay, and I talked about smart guard and the suspend and being able to give yourself a bolus. Manual mode, you have all the control in, so you can do what you want. Once you get into auto mode, if you're talking about an auto mode minimum delivery, which is when auto mode has decided that you don't need any insulin, and auto mode can do this for up to 90 minutes. I mean, up to 2.5 hours. But it can also do it for 10 minutes. That's just part of its basal delivery. You cannot override anything in auto mode. That's where people get frustrated. That's where some people get frustrated. In manual mode, yes, you can exit a suspend and give yourself a bolus. In auto mode, you do not have that choice. So that is where people do fake carbs or ghost carbs. That is where people do things like fill cannula, or they give themselves a manual injection on top of what auto mode is doing. That is a very personal choice. I will just let you know, because I know you're new to the whole system, that by doing that, you are teaching auto mode that you don't need the insulin. So it's something to keep in mind, that if you are adding insulin and auto mode is continuing to learn you and to track you and to look at your daily totals and everything else, and it's seeing that you're dropping low without any insulin, it's going to decide you don't need that insulin. So I think that when you start to lie, you might be getting into bigger lies, because now you have to make up for the insulin it's not giving you because it thought you didn't need any insulin. Okay, so that is that. Okay, I saw from the pictures that you sent me that you were using your Contour link to automatically send results to your pump. So you were testing your sugar with your Contour link, and then you were hitting send results, and it was sending it to your pump. I did want to tell you that I avoided that, and the reason I avoided it is because of all the rules, especially on the old transmitter. Because of all those rules, and because of the chances of your number being outside of 35% or your calibration factor being too high or whatever, when it automatically sends it, you have no chance to intervene, and you're at its mercy. So I would never send my results without doing a quick calculation and seeing how it looked. You're going to get some errors, and you're going to get some failed calibrations or some BG requireds, because those two are communicating without you getting a chance to micromanage. So that was something else. Okay, you're on the old transmitter now. When you get to the 2.2, lots will change, but it is in your best interest on the old transmitter to understand your calibration factor and to really understand it. It will be to your benefit. The 35%, I'm trying to think of what else you asked in here. Okay, you asked another question about calibrating, and I think you were asking whether you should calibrate before one is due, or if you should just do an enter BG. Okay, in this case, Medtronic very consistently has said, ideally you calibrate between 3 and 4 times a day. Sounds easy enough, sounds reasonable enough. However, on the old transmitter, because calibrating can be so tricky, I would not calibrate unless I needed to for some reason. Like if my calibration is due, okay, yes. But I would never, if I were just putting a number into the pump, I would never put the number in and calibrate it unless I had done all of my calculations and I knew everything looked really good. And if I knew it was a perfect time to calibrate, then yes, I would do it. But I would never just kind of haphazardly calibrate. However, you do need to be aware of the fact that when you enter BG into the 670G, especially in auto mode, because of those strict rules, it potentially can do the same damage as an attempted calibration. So if you put in your value of a 100 and you enter the BG into auto mode, but it turns out it's a 100 with a calibration factor of a 10, of an 8.2, it's going to trigger a BG required on the old transmitter, and that's just by entering the value. It's enough that it's triggered the red flag. So in general, I got out of the habit of putting any numbers into my pump unless I needed to for a very specific reason. Even for boluses. I mean, these are things you have to be aware of. Anytime you give it a number, if it's outside of the range, it can give you a problem. So do those carefully, and keep in mind you're on eggshells until you get the newer transmitter. And not to do the center results. I just said that. Okay. Screen protectors, I don't have anything to say about screen protectors. I think that probably means I never put a screen protector on mine. It may also mean I never took the one off. I know, maybe I have one on there. Or maybe I don't. I don't think I have a screen protector. Okay, so I don't know. And mine survived 3 children, so with a couple of little scratches. So maybe you can get a screen protector, and I will ask if anybody knows where you get those. You also asked a what if question. What if you're in auto mode and you're high? Should you go back to manual mode for the correction? That's that ghost carb, fake carb, fill cannula, manual injection. Go back to manual mode. Those are your options. I don't know what to tell you. They kind of mess around with it and see what they're willing to do. They first see what auto mode can do. I will say this about auto mode. It gives weak correction boluses. It does, however, have the potential to give very high, the basal rate equivalents. In fact, on a regular basis, I would see it give me 200% or 240% of my regular basal rate. So I wouldn't even give myself that. So it has that potential. So to let it go for a couple of weeks and let it try to see what it can pull together for you, you might get good results. From what I understand, you are a very stable BG kind of guy. You might get good results. And once it figures out what you need, it's possible that it can use those basal rates to not need to give you these huge corrections, especially if you're not doing up and down. But speaking of going down, I think that's probably what's happening right now. So I'll get out of here in a minute and do that. Last couple questions. Spots for sensor, arm and abs are what have been FDA approved. I did not like going to my arm. This is my Connect, and it's all taped up, and I don't like doing it, and it went right into the muscle, so I'm not a fan. Some people love it in the arm, some people love it in the thigh. And some people hate it in the abs. I was okay in the abs. My surprise spot was around the back where my love handle is. I found that to give me an extra day and just decent accuracy. So I would encourage, without giving medical advice, exploring. And okay, you asked about the Guardian 3 and the Guardian Connect, and you actually asked me which one did I recommend you using for the 670G. And I want to say I'm sorry if I contributed to any kind of confusion there, which I probably did. The Guardian Connect is a standalone CGM. It cannot be used for the 670G. The Guardian 3 is your only option if you want it to communicate with the 670G and you want to run the suspend feature in auto mode. And the Guardian Connect, Medtronic does say, they've recommended people wearing both of them, or they said it's an option to wear both, so I'm sure you could do it. However, it would require wearing 2. And in fact, just up until a couple of days ago when my transmitter died, I did have one on my stomach for the 670G and one on my arm for the Connect. And I don't care. I wear sensors all over the place, so for me it's not a big deal. But things to be aware of: one will communicate with your iPhone, and the other one will communicate with your pump. And another thing to be aware of is mine were rarely in the same ballpark. In fact, it's why I like the Connect, is because the Connect is a sharper sensor, whereas my Guardian 3 still lagged. So if I'm looking at my numbers, I'm looking at 2 sometimes very different numbers, where one is showing me a 58 and my other one is showing me a 148. But those are those 2. And different information, nothing short of maddening, I think. I think that's it. I think my blood sugar's dropping. So I'm going to go maybe do some glucagon because I mess around with everything. I hope that helps. That was 45 minutes of, not hogwash, that's not fair. But if you can think of any other answers and you're a glutton for punishment, then let me know. If you can think of any other questions, that's very bold of me. If you can think of any other questions, let me know. Or if I'm wrong, then let me know that too. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.